Good morning, Tribal Jazzman Scholar. I want to talk about things like cross-species communication, but more importantly, the way in which we believe or don't believe things that maybe our culture accepts or doesn't accept. In a book entitled A Language Older Than Words, ecophilosopher and activist Darek Jensen talks about an interview he held with a very, very well-known scholar, so to speak, of sea mammals, particularly whales. He was a gentleman who went to great lengths to create experiences in which he could communicate with whales and play music with them, in fact. And he actually has some recordings where he's playing music with other animals, including turkeys. So Darek Jensen went to interview this man for a journal, for a magazine that he was writing for. And he describes this experience in his book, A Language Older Than Words, in which he really wants to know, is this guy as crazy as I am? Because Darek Jensen himself recites many anecdotes from his own life and the lives of others that have been related to him in which cross-species communication is taking place. Darek Jensen even talks about his own experience of communicating with the stars as a child. So he's hoping to find someone sympathetic to him who can further validate his feelings and his beliefs. But at the same time, Darek Jensen's saying, maybe we'll both end up in the asylum together. At least we'll have some time to talk at that point. But he ends up meeting this gentleman and spending some time with him and realizing that the guy says, look, I'm not going to say definitively that I'm communicating with animals. I'm not going to say that. He doesn't even articulate it as much as I am right now, but he lets Darek Jensen know this is all a metaphor. And I'm going to call it a metaphor. I'm not going to take myself so seriously that I would make the claim as some kind of an expert that indeed I am communicating with whales, that I'm speaking with them. I'm not going to make such a claim. This is what Darek Jensen sort of got from this conversation. And he jokes and says, looks like I'm going to be alone in the asylum. But what struck me as worth relating is this idea that, a couple ideas. One is that we certainly are, I think, required, at least I feel required, to challenge belief systems that are very embedded in the culture, including ones that say, you know what, you can't talk to an animal. You can't actually communicate with an animal. There's an animal right over here. Sounds like a bird. Hopping in the dry leaves. There's the belief system in our culture that you can't have that kind of a connection with an animal where you can actually communicate in a way that, like in the way that I'm communicating via my iPhone video feature. And the other part is that if we take these kinds of things really seriously, then we open ourselves to ridicule, and we also have to kind of maintain a level of arrogance to defend ourselves. So Darek Jensen and his interviewee were sharing with me the idea that, let's challenge some of these paradigms, some of these belief systems, some of these cultural structures that limit perhaps what, in fact, we are able to experience. And then also, let's not take ourselves too seriously. The one thing that this gentleman did say in the interview was he said, look, he goes, I'm not going to say whether it's really happening, but I can tell you I really enjoy creating circumstances in which I have these amazingly profound, for me, experiences. So he was living his life, following his belief systems, trusting himself, and enjoying his work, and not making any lofty claims. He says, in fact, a lot of these scientists who allow me to join them on their expeditions do so because I don't come on with a lot of pretense. I don't make wild claims and assertions. I just do my work and have my experiences and write about them. So I was intrigued with that and wanted to share those ideas. In a future post, I will discuss my own experiences with cross-species communication and what that looks like to me. And until then, stand by. Tribal Jazzman Scholar, thanks for joining me.